Good afternoon. Welcome once again to Blakey's Bootroom here on Wales Online. Nathan and Phil in the studio to talk all things Bluebirds after that great opening victory for Neil Warnock on Friday night. And another big game, of course, coming up in just a few hours' time. Let's start the Friday night, the beginning of the Neil Warnock era. Some atmosphere, some result. Phil, how different was it?
Well, it was. I mean, the atmosphere was, I think, just kind of got better and better as the game went on, didn't it? Obviously it helped having the 2/3 of the ground full made a big difference to the atmosphere. But I think there's always with a new manager, I think there's always that sense of waiting to see how it pans out. And I think as the game got on, I think the fans kind of could see more and more just what a big physical effort was going into the game. And certainly for the last 10 minutes after, when it was nervy, when Bristol City got a goal back, the atmosphere was really, really, really good. I would say sort of 7, 8 out of 10.
Stepped
probably.
up again.
It did. And to be honest, that's when you really need a crowd. It's all right when you're 2-0 up. It's when you go 2-1 down and the players who've lost a lot of games probably start getting a little bit nervous, and that's when you need the crowd to then find another gear. So that part of it was really, really pleasing. It was a proper football atmosphere, in the way that they were responding to the game. No, it was good. That part of it was really encouraging.
Did you see the sort of blood, guts and thunder you wanted from the players?
Yeah, you did. You've seen, it's funny, you've seen a reflection of the manager's character almost immediately, John. So, and I said to a few people after the game, you don't expect him to go out and start stringing together 18, 20 passes and putting it back in net, but what you expect as a minimum is that fight, is that aggressiveness in the tackle, is that willingness to win, that desire, and it was on display. It was there for everyone to see, and they, like Phil said, the last, I'd say 10, 15 minutes after Bristol scored, you could feel the nerves starting to creep in. And the crowd, they went again. They did. They really did go again.
It's a good number, wasn't it? 22 and a half?
22 and a half. And they effectively, when you talk about the 12th man, those are the situations when you need that 12th man, and they didn't let anyone down. They were brilliant.
Would we expect that to be Cardiff's crowd going forward? What do you think it will be tonight, or was that just the
well,
first
there was I don't know, it's kind of balanced out, isn't there, because last Friday was on the telly, which would have stopped a few people going, but then also there was the ticket deal, which would have I don't know really. It's difficult I would be surprised if they got back up to 22 and a half so quickly. I wouldn't be surprised if there was 2,000 or 3,000 drop off, but I think the main thing, the most exciting thing, is the people who went back down on Friday who haven't been there for a while would have seen that game, watched the team's performance, felt the atmosphere, and thought, I fancy another go at that. I think that's probably the most encouraging thing about the game. I think if you'd been there, you would want to go back down.
They are coming because of Warnock.
Absolutely.
It's as simple as that. They're not coming. This is where I hope the club doesn't get mixed up in its approach to what they do going forward in future. I hope they don't think, they're coming because they love us now and everything's rosy, because it's far from it. So they really need to, like I said, build upon what was there on Friday night and take things forward as a club, because God forbid if anything went pear-shaped with Warnock, or at the end of the season he decides, right, I'm walking away, the club is going to have to try and maintain that attitude from the crowd, that
feel-good factor.
They're going to have to try and maintain that. So the manager they would install would become so big because of their previous record. Warnock was kind of an obvious choice, if you like. So many people clamouring for him. 7 promotions, very good in the championship. So it was kind of an obvious, but sometimes other clubs have had history of avoiding what the fans have wanted. This time they got it in, they're in sync, everyone's happy. And it shows you what, momentum can then be created just from simple good decision making.
Yeah, let's talk about what was different on the pitch then, starting with the personnel. I suppose 3 debutants, 2 of the new signings, and only one man we were all talking about afterwards, Mr. Bamba. That was a bit of a debut, wasn't it?
It was unbelievable. I said, obviously, I was there with Blakey and Chris, and about 10 minutes in, Bamba went in for a sliding tackle and he just got nowhere near it. Didn't get the ball, didn't get the player. And I kind of thought, oh my. And I turned to Chris, I says, oh, I'm a bit worried about this. And it was like someone flicking the switch. After that, every tackle, he just nailed every header, didn't miss a kick. I mean, he was like a man possessed, wasn't he? The challenge, the reaction from clubs that he's been at previously is that they've seen this before, where he started like a steam train and then it's dropped off a little bit. So the challenge is for him to keep doing that, but you'd hope that he's got a manager there that won't let the attention drop and will keep at him and keep making sure he just does the basics, because there was a suggestion that he'd had a little bit of illness, but Tammy Abraham came into that game and everyone's sort of saying, oh, it's the new Marcus Rashford and this guy's got it all and you can't stop him, and he just didn't get a kick. He was
that the young lad from Chelsea?
Yeah, he was bullied.
He didn't fancy it, I'll be honest with you. I was surprised he got yellow carded for running in when there was a bit of a melee, because watching him as a striker, you could see he just didn't want the aerial challenge at all. He wasn't even putting his body up against Morrison or Bamba. He was actually doing the slight. You think you're fooling people, but you're not. You stand underneath the ball, so you kind of like jump and it goes over your head all the time, but you're not fooling anybody, kid. He did give the two centre halves an easy ride, but I thought they were both, really, really good. But Bamba, for not playing for so long,
you're surprised how good.
I was surprised. Because we were saying we said last week, we doubt they'll all play, or if those play, they'll play 65 minutes, 70 minutes. But for him to get through, it was, you could just see it was raw adrenaline. His goal is just a melee ended up in the net. He almost put it over the bar. But I think what was interesting for me was Neil Warnock had said his problem was he thinks he's a player, and I've told him no, just defend. Think of defending first and foremost. And that's what he done. And if he wants to find that consistency, first of all, just think about defending. And bit by bit, the playing side will come. Like I've said, the style of football that we played, you wouldn't go down there and think, oh yeah, it was a great style of football. But it was blood and thunder. But you've got to have that as the base, you know what I mean, as your foundation. And then you build the football on top of that. So good debut.
Was Bamba everything Bruno Manga should have been this season so far?
Yes. Basically.
Yes.
And,
yes.
The Bruno Manga one's a complicated issue, isn't it? And you suspect that a lot of people, including the player himself, who hasn't probably. Well, I mean, he certainly hasn't delivered the performance.
Do you know what does my head in these days, Phil? Sorry to cut across you. One thing that does my head in with players these days. They don't seem to want to fight for their position. Do you understand what I mean? It doesn't seem to be like I'm not talking about Bruno specifically here, because I don't know in training, but like a lot of people I speak to, a lot of people within the coaching setup, a lot of people, within management, and a lot of former players, they'll all say the same thing. When a player's out of the squad or out of the team, very rarely do they hear like a player saying, "Oh, I'm going to fight for my place." I'm going to fight for my place. It's always, I'll just get a move, or I'll just sulk on the bench, and I'll go through the motions sort of thing. And I mean, there's 22, there's 18 men, there's 11 players can play. Do the math. You've got to fight for your place. As simple as that.
I don't think my heart could take Bamba and Manga playing together, because they're both brilliant defenders, but they're both prone to a little bit of rash. So I'm not sure for the sake of my heart rate, it's maybe best just to have one of them for the time being.
Yeah, but I think I think if they adopted that, because I always say it takes it takes a while to get into form. You look at Morrison, for a long while he was a goal waiting to happen, wasn't he? I used to feel sorry for him, because he'd make a mistake. He was like a goalkeeper, and he'd end up in the back of the net. Not make a mistake and someone to get a last-stick tackle, or he'd end up in a corner, or keeper makes it. He'd make a mistake, and then 9 times out of 10 he'd end up in the back of the net. So I'd say it's like he looks solid as well.
He was good.
Alongside Bamba.
Shouldn't be overlooked.
He had a really good game, as did Gunnarsson in front. That little trio, they were brilliant. They were really good.
So, okay, what about the other? What about Junior Hoylett then, the other new face who started? Flashes?
Yeah, I don't think he looked anywhere near his peak. But that's we all knew that was going to be the case. But
was it the touchline hugging winger you've been looking for?
No, not enough of it. I think it's still, he had a tendency to come inside a bit, and you tend to do that when you're not as fit as you like to be and not as sharp as you like to be. So you can give grace there, you understand it, you know what I mean? But he did go outside once or twice, but you know, it was still, for me, two wingers, Noon especially, too much inside. I just, you know, I think like it's so, the last thing a defender wants you to do, if you say to a left fullback or right fullback, right, what would you rather? Him attack you outside, 1v1, or attack you inside? Most of them would say, I'd rather him go inside me. Why? Because he's going into my bodies. If he goes outside and gets round the back of me 1v1, well, that's the ultimate goal, innit? To get in behind the defence, to create chances. That's what everyone's looking to do. So you don't want that to happen. So I just look at the wingers and I'd say, like, you know, I'd almost ban Noon from coming inside. I'd say to him, until you get, I don't care what happened, what the outcome is, but your first 3 runs, attack the outside defender. I don't care if you put it in the stand, if he blocks you, if it goes for a goal kick, you overrun it. I am not bothered. But you've got to change, you've got to flip the script, because at the moment, you're too predictable.
Okay, and Hoylett for you?
Yeah, I think he just maybe lacked that bit of conviction in terms of committing a defender, but that probably just comes from the fact that he knows that physically he's not quite at his peak. And, in terms of sort of, you know, going wide, I mean, you know, Hoylett's a right foot playing on the left, Noon's a left foot playing on the right, so you suspect it's part of the game plan, that they know they're going to come inside. Obviously, players make their own decisions. Yeah,
that's the problem we got, is the opposition is too predictable. You know, and like I say, Noon, I guarantee you, if he done once, twice, 3 times and a half, where he put it on his left, and he just chopped and went back outside and just swung a ball in with his right foot. It's not so much, it's not for my benefit. I'm just trying to say, as a former person who played winger, you've got to understand the mentality, the defender you're playing against, and what he wants, what makes his life easier. Yeah, it makes his life easier if I'm slow rather than fast. It makes his life easier if I'm not great in the air and he's like 6'2" and can win those challenges, flicks on. You know, you have to understand the mentality. It's a battle of minds as well as anything else. And right about now, he's almost giving too much to his opposition defender, making them look far better than what they are, to be honest with you. Because I've seen Nooney twist some people. I mean, he got skills. When he's on it, he got mad skills. So I would say, just like I said, don't care about the result. Go outside. Just go outside. Just keep taking them outside. Swing in or switch flanks.
Mix it up a bit. Yeah. Okay. What about the third one that we saw? Obviously been there a while, but injury has kept him. The fullback Bennett. Pleased, disappointed, rusty.
Well, he's got genuine pace, and he likes to get forward, which is what I think something we've been asking for from Cardiff's fullbacks for a while. I have some doubts over his positioning from Friday night. I thought he was caught out a lot.
It was his first game.
It was his first game. I know, but you know, Bristol's threat always came.
Sunderland, see, hard taskmaster, don't mess about.
Well,
once it on.
All Bristol City's best attacks came down the right hand side.
Yeah.
They targeted him, and fair play, you know, he stood up to it. And I do think he looks a good player, and he's got a bit of pace going forward, which will really benefit Cardiff in the long run. But I wouldn't be surprised if one would be working on his position a little bit. But that's fair, you know. But the guy is 26 now as well, you know. So,
once it's always the same when you go to a new club. Once you settle in, your first game, couple of games, get in, get used to it, and it's like a kid going to a class and being a new boy, innit? It's, you know, you have to settle in, find your feet, find your friends, and then you you settle down. But potentially looks very good, very good. I think it could be, you know, him, Morrison, Bamba, Peltier, and him. They could be a very strong quartet with, I think, definitely the way Gunnar's played. Gunnarsson sat in front. He looked re-energized. He looked, you know,
he's had a bit of a second
back to his best. But if you look, right, you say that. I bet if we look over the course of history, over the managers, you'll see how, you know, under Mackay, he had to play at because Mackay was so demanding of the players. Yeah. So he had to play at a certain standard. Yeah. Softer managers, Solskjaer, Slade, Paul Trollope, you can kind of get away with sometimes doing it, sometimes not. Then someone like Warnock comes in, who's like a raging bull. All of a sudden, it's not a coincidence that his game goes up in intensity 2 or 3 levels. It's not. And this is what I say about the difference between someone like Paul Trollope and someone like Neil Warnock. Yeah, is one demands it or you don't play. Yeah. And the other is trying to get it out of you in his own sort of way. And I just say you better just being ruthless.
The role was perfect for him as well. I mean, he played sort of as the one in front of the back four, and he played there against Bristol Rovers in the cup earlier in the season.
I think he should always play there.
But when the point
that's what he is, a stopper.
But the point is, Blakey, when he played there against Bristol Rovers, he wasn't a stopper. He was almost like they were asking him to kind of play the Pirlo role, ping balls over the top.
He's not that.
But on Friday night, it was just a case of saying to him, listen, we're going to go with 2 banks of 4, you're going to be the man in the middle, and when those sideways passes come in, you've got to be on it. And that's all he did for 90 minutes.
Well, they went with a 4 or 5, if you like, didn't they? Yeah. And he was sat with, and sometimes it was him, Rouse and Whittingham. I would say to him, yeah, you could, listen, you're an international. You've got good qualities about you, but you can't spray it like Whittingham. Yeah, so do your job, do it well. If the pass is on, pass it. I've got more than enough confidence in him to do that. Whether it's 10 yards, 20 yards, or 60 yards, he can pick a pass. However, if you want someone on the ball to be picking out the passes, you want it to be Whittingham. If you want someone just like vice versa, you don't want Whittingham charging around, tackling people, because he's not going to. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah,
so do what you're best at and more. Do you know what I mean? But don't neglect what you're really good at. And I think that's what's happened over the last couple of months, is people have neglected what they're very, very good at and trying to just, I don't know, almost get by. If you look at Lex Immers, you know, great player, I always said, very intelligent guy, very, you know, 2 steps ahead, but has gone, you know, now you can see he's going to have to scramble to try and regain some form to get back in the team. Or you don't play. And you might, some people think sometimes, oh, I'm okay just picking up my dough, but after 3 or 4 games and everything's up and exciting, hey, you know, you want to play. You should want to play even when it's down and struggling, because you want to be in amongst the fight. But you catch my drift.
I catch your drift, Blakey, absolutely. Let's have a couple of comments then. Alex says it was like watching a different team on Friday night. Hard-working, effective, passionate and victorious. Pretty angry at the players, though, he says, who were clearly coasting under
They were coasting. Great point, Al. They were coasting. But that comes from your... Okay, it comes from self-pride, Al, yeah? But you got leaders for a purpose. Do you know what I mean?
That out of people.
Correct.
Yep, okay, fair enough. Another one here, Dan says, I think it's important that we can build some momentum from the Bristol game and take it forward over the next few games and establish ourselves outside of the relegation area. I think that's why Cardiff are actually back second from bottom.
The table's crazy. Cardiff are back to second bottom. And if they win tonight, they're 6 points off the playoffs. Really? What a crazy division.
You talking playoffs?
I'm talking playoffs.
He's talking. You're damn right. He's talking playoffs. Damn right.
He's a greedy boy.
What about that game tonight then? In terms of selection, obviously that was Warnock's team. They've won a game. Is he the type of bloke who's go right? We go again, the same again, or is the fact that there's another game on Saturday?
Yeah, I think it's it all just depends on where he thinks they're at physically. I would have thought he'd be the kind of guy who would love to just say U11. You did the job, go out and do it again. But I don't know if Lambert Obviously he's had a few knocks. I don't know whether he'll be necessarily capable of just going out and doing it again.
And the point of having you're better trying to mingle 16 players, so over, or 18 players, 16 I would say, so over the course of like 10 games, you're changing 2 or 3, not every game, but 4 or 5. So when you see people are flagging a bit, especially when it goes Saturday, Tuesday, or Saturday, Wednesday in this case, or Friday, Wednesday in this case, it is, especially, players like Lambert haven't played a lot of football over the last year or so. So you this is where the squad comes into fruition. So, that's why I say players like Lex Simmers, you got to be ready. Players like Kadeem Harris, he gets talked up enough. You've got to produce. It's not a case of, oh, well, you get on and then you don't produce and it's this reason or that reason, because then you don't get talked up. You had your opportunity and you didn't take it. So, those players who are sat on the bench now, rather than think themselves we're bench players, they got to think we're part of a squad. There's 30 odd games to go, 33, 34 games to go. Look, the season's barely begun, or just coming up to the first third of games. It's a long season, long time.
What about the new boys then in terms of selection? Mr. Williams here saying, do you guys think Shamak and Richardson will feature tonight? Will Shamak play instead of Lambert, for example? Quite hard for him to play 3 games in the space of a week. And what's Richardson's best position, left back or on the wing? I think we know Phil's thoughts on that. But do you think either of them start tonight?
I don't know, but I don't think so. I would have thought if Lambert's not going to play, I would have thought Pilkington would be the next in line to come and play there. It depends really. It depends how he's going to set them up, because if he wants to play with a sort of almost a 2 up top, with one as a 10 and one as a 9, then Shamak and Pilkington will probably both play. But if he wants to go again, where it's almost a 4-5-1, he's only really got room for one of them. I would have thought Pilkington will be next in line if Lambert doesn't play. And I don't think he'll change anything on the left. I think it'll be Bennett and Hoyle again, which would suggest that Richardson probably wouldn't play.
I'd probably change Richardson for Ralls.
Let's talk about Joe Ralls. We were looking at some of his stats yesterday. I mean, he's by no means been appalling, is he, this season? But he just,
no, he really
particularly
hasn't.
compared to last year.
Do you know for me what's happened? Do you know what's happened? He's been sucked in by the dressing room, I used to call it. So what happens is, like Alex has just said, a lot of the players were coasting, and in their minds sometimes they do, sometimes they don't realise they're coasting, but they're coasting. And he's gone on to that sort of, when I'm playing every week, I'm okay sort of thing, rather than think I'm a young lad and I need to, my consistency needs to be really high. I need to be 8, 9 every week to hold down my place and create a reputation for myself within the championship. Otherwise, what happens is dip in form. If he finds himself out of the team, someone goes in and does really well. Imagine if Kieran Richardson steps in front of him in midfield. I can't see Kieran Richardson relinquishing that, especially to a younger player. He is going to be on it. So, my warning would be to Joe, just be careful. Just try and, raise your consistency level. He's not playing poorly. We just know he can play a lot better.
Yeah, I think, looking at the stats, I know stats are stats, but he was pretty much down on everything. If you saw that yesterday, he was pretty much down on
running, work rate, everything.
Yeah, passes, key passes, assists, just passing accuracy, pretty much everything that was good about his game.
It goes both ways, because at the end of the day, the team are down on pretty much everything. That's the other thing you've got to remember, and I think Rolls is...
Yeah, the team is down because individuals are down. That's what you have to realise.
That's what you've got to realise.
So it's individuals. That's what listen, football is an individual. It's a team sport played by individuals. Now, if 11 individuals are down, the team is down.
Well, I just think I think Rolls is a better player when you encourage him to play high at the pitch and to get in the opposition's faces a little bit, which was the role he was given on Friday. I thought he did it pretty well. I don't think he was used in the right way at the start of the season, and so I would also factor that in as a reason why his key stats are down, because he was being asked to play, in my opinion, a lot deeper than he should be, which would, in my opinion, explain why he didn't have as many key passes and assists and what have you. But I don't think anyone would argue he's playing as well as he was last season, because he's not. But I'm just saying that I think Friday was a better role for him, and he did it quite well. So hopefully you can keep him on that. If he plays,
that's why we love opinions.
If he keeps playing like he did on Friday night every game, he stays in the team as far as I'm concerned. Simple as. So let's see if he can do it.
Are you looking at me for? You waiting for me to come across with you? I'll say something opposite.
Blakey, I was hoping you were going to take him to task, as it were.
No.
So you're a Richardson man for tonight, and you're a...
I would go the back four, same goalkeeper, same back four. And I would actually go with Gunnarsson, Whittingham and Kieran Richardson. And I would play Gunnarsson and Kieran Richardson alongside each other, and I would let Whittingham float about a bit. And then you've got, like I say, Whittingham, Immers and Pilkington, I think, can all play in that floating kind of advanced midfield role. So it gives you a lot of options, and then you've got the speed demons out wide and the big man up front, so you've got the wall to play off. So, I think Kieran Richardson, very intelligent boy, got a lot of experience. He'll know when to make runs beyond, as will Whittingham know, when to make runs beyond, and you just let Gunnarsson sit more times than not. So it's going to be interesting, but I don't pick the team, John. That's just my opinion.
You're a mere outsider like the rest of us,
yes.
Unfortunately. That's the way it goes. What about Sheffield Wednesday? I know you were a big fan of them last season, Phil, in the way they played, particularly the way they took Cardiff apart towards the end of last season. Are they the same team this season? Started poorly, but they seem to...
Well, they kind of back to it. They had that bit of a mess with Forestieri at the start of the season, where he basically went on strike, which I think disrupted them, because he makes a difference for them, because he's got absolutely everything in this game at this, particularly at this level. But he's sort of back in the fold now and performing. The team's largely pretty similar. What they've added is, if he's available, we're not sure yet, what they've added is Stephen Fletcher up front.
Good signing, isn't it?
At this level, his link-up play and his ability in the air and with his feet, with his back to goal, is just excellent. That was such a canny signing. So if he's fit, he'll be a different proposition for Bamber and Marison if he's playing tonight, because he will be bang up for it.
And he's experienced as well. He's got bags of it.
He won't fade from the game as quickly as Abraham did. So. But they're a very good side. They're very organised defensively, but when they get the ball, they've got a lot of freedom, which comes from the fact that they've played well for a long time, and they've played in partnerships.
Consistency,
so they know who needs to drop when one goes and that kind of thing, and that just allows them. It looks almost like sort of anarchy, but it's not. It's very, very, very
organised chaos.
So I think it's going to be a much tougher game. Against Bristol City for a lot of reasons.
They're a hard team to beat.
Excellent.
They're going to be a hard team to beat, and their win on the weekend, you just thought to yourself, if they lost that game, they'll probably come with a bit down and a bit upset, and Cardiff get an early goal and they think, here we go again. But that just gives them a lift they need, and Forestieri, and they're going to be a...
Oh, crikey, Blakey.
But, it's not that bad. You don't fear anyone that much, John. Bloody hell. But it'll be a good game. It'll be a very good game.
Warnock's got a great record, isn't he, against Sheffield Wednesday? I think he's barely ever lost to them.
Well, it's good. I like the way you change your voice there.
Well, I know, so we were looking at some of the, as you do around this, looking at the Sheffield Wednesday fans forums, a lot of people talking about the game, and definitely, quite a few people on there saying, we're cursing the fact that Neil Warnock has turned up at Cardiff City because they thought they would breeze it, but then now they're like, oh, Warnock.
Yeah. Well, he has that effect, and
Sheffield United fan, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, he is a big bladesman, and we all know about the rivalry between them two. But if he can get a second win, which you wouldn't bet against him, as good as Wednesday are playing of late, you wouldn't bet against Cardiff getting a second result tonight.
No, absolutely.
He really will be right up for it as well. if I was managing the team playing against Newcastle, I'd be using that. I really would. I'd be saying to them before they go out, so you cannot come back in this dressing room having lost. I won't have it. No, he'll be right up for it, and it all just adds a little bit of.
And what it does, it takes the attention off the team again. So what you've got, all the focus will be on, like you've just said, Warnock's record against Sheffield Wednesday, not losing, blah, 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 blah. So all that, really and truly, there's no focus on the players and, you know, who will be starting, what will be happening. The focus is on Wednesday, Neil Warnock, old rivalry, never lost, blah, blah, blah.
Well, I don't really want to dwell on the details of this, but how will the sort of events of the week in terms of Neil Warnock and the MP, obviously repeating certain unfounded allegations from Jason Puncheon, how will that have affected Warnock? Is he the type of guy?
I don't think it will have at all, to be honest. He's been around the game an awful long time. I really don't think. I think there was a bit of anger that the MP basically hadn't done his research, which is why he brought it up. He was under the impression that there'd been no investigation, which obviously there was, and Jason Puncheon was fined and what have you. So I think there was a lot of anger that he just hadn't done basic research, and you can't basically abuse his position. It's no abuse the privilege that MPs have without doing his research, which is. But I don't think it will have affected Warnock at all. He's been around the block a long time, and there'll have been no sense of that from the players. They'll have been well protected from that. From his
I couldn't understand how. When I read up on it, Puncheon had totally withdrawn what he said and apologised. So I didn't understand how it was then, how an MP could mention it without actually have read what.
Just because
I know they've got the privilege to be able to mention it, but what I'm saying is when you mentioned his name in that certain circumstance, you know, unless you read one line and then said, right, you must have read.
No, he didn't. He read the top line.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Which is
it's mind blowing. Do you know what I mean? It's mind blowing. It's I thought to myself, whoa, we could have. Well, if he didn't have his privileges, I think he probably would have been one or two big time letters going his way.
Yeah, well, you never know. Maybe he'll apologise. Maybe
he won't apologise. He won't apologise.
No, apologise, mate.
Go and have a look at Damien Collins' second flat expenses. And,
we're gonna get political up on here. Don't open that can of worms.
We'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Google it.
Blakey's Bootroom getting controversial.
What do we think about Clinton-Trump tonight? What do we think? Yeah, could be a close one.
Best of a bad bunch. Rock in a hard place.
Will you be at the game tonight?
No, I'm watching the election. No, of course. I'm at the game. I'm commentating tonight.
Good. Oh, there we go. Good stuff. Biggest game of the night, of course. Man City, Barcelona, second. Behind Cardiff.
Oh, is that on tonight, is it?
Yeah, it is. You're not going anymore. Can't won't start.
No, I just put the video on.
Yeah,
record.
Absolutely. So tonight, then, we just hope really for a similar atmosphere, a similar.
Yeah, because it's not a derby, but the fact that Warnock is a bladesman against one of his major rivals, that adds to the whole occasion, if you like. So for me, it's going to be probably a lot of blood and thunder again. I still wouldn't expect to see 18, 20 passes and attempts on goal, and if it happens, it's great. But I think those things take time to grow within your team.
I think
structure.
As good as Sheffield Wednesday were when they played in April, Cardiff made them it just so easy for them. It was incredible. I mean, Slade picked Digachoy in defensive midfield, which today is still one of the most baffling selections I've ever seen in my life. So I think it's just a case from Cardiff's perspective, don't make it easy for them. Be hard to break down. Don't give anything daft, because they will punish you for it, and just try and build from that. You've got to accept that the form that Sheffield Wednesday are in, the individual talent that they've got, they might win the game. They want Forestieri might do something brilliant, and it's just about, from Cardiff, it's just about building on that sort of togetherness there was in the stadium, putting in another big physical effort, showing it wasn't just a one-night thing, and just sort of building from there.
I mean, it's not too early for individuals to do something a bit special, because that's effectively what it is. You go out and you graft, and then your players who you expect brilliance from, you need to see something. So, your Ricky Lamberts, your Shamaks if he plays, your Noons, your Harrises, your Hoylets. They're your match winners, your Whittenhams, free kick or something like that. They're your match winners. So that's what I say, just if they do what they're good at, first and foremost, then, it should stand for a really, really good game.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Then, of course, after that, we got Forest on the weekend, a couple of days. What sort of opposition will they...
They're on a bit of a run as well.
Tough place to go up there.
Well, they lost to Blackburn last night, which is a very poor result from their perspective, which I guess just kind of sums up the division, what we were just saying. Because at the start of the season, you had teams like Reading, Burton, Barnsley, who were winning all these games, and you're going... All of a sudden, they're just tailing off a little bit. They're getting beat in games that you wouldn't expect them to, and conceding late goals and that kind of thing. So it just goes to show that if you can get the league is going to sort of clump together a little bit now. So Cardiff have just got to get in the mix almost and get themselves in a position where once Warnock's had a bit of time to bed in, they've still got the opportunity to kick on and see what happens. It's just about being tough to beat for a little while, not getting cut adrift.
Yeah.
Because there are some, the likes of Derby, Ipswich, I think will move up the division, but I think there's a lot of teams who'll come down a little bit as well. So don't get cut adrift, sort of stay in the mix, and then see where you are in a couple of months' time. It'd just be hard to beat. Try and build a bit of momentum.
Somebody here, maybe they're trying to wind you up, Blakey. I think Kadeem Harris is a Division 1 player and is nowhere near Championship standard.
Hey, it's just about opinions.
That's a slightly random one there, but slightly odd one here. But Adam, obviously with Warnock coming in and changing things, do you think he might look to bring back any loan players who are out on loan?
You can't.
You can't until January.
You've got to wait till January.
Well, in January.
Only goalkeeper you can bring in, and totally freeze now. So emergency goalkeeper if both keepers went down injured, and if you're a free transfer, as in the players we've signed are. So if they're not contracted, but otherwise can't do nothing, mate.
Yeah, I'm trying to think who's out on loan. Who's Sardi, who I don't think they'll bring back this season.
Yeah, he's been scoring goals, but Belgium is Belgium, I suppose.
Yeah, I personally don't put too much store in that, to be honest. So I don't think he'll come back. No, I think they'll bring players in January, but I don't think there's anyone out there who'll come back anytime soon.
I wouldn't mind seeing someone like a David Nugent. I think he'd be a good signing for Cardiff. He's not playing at Middlesbrough at the moment. He's young. Do you like him? Is there a bit of rivalry there up there in the north? No.
I don't
he gives you that. He gives you that. Pace and.
Cardiff have got Newcastle in a couple of weeks. How are you going to cope with that?
That's going to be a good day.
His face, lighten up.
It's on 5th of November, isn't it? Yeah, bonfire night.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good
I didn't know you was a Newcastle fan.
Yeah, no, I can't wait back home. Yeah, it'll be good fun.
Might not let you have accreditation there, So we have fixtures coming up. Obviously, we've got Sheffield Wednesday, Forest, then Wigan. Another home game after that, Newcastle, Huddersfield, Villa, and then that Brighton, Ipswich. That takes us into the sort of Christmas period. Where do Cardiff need to kind of be come Christmas time for us to be thinking, actually, play on?
The old saying goes, you take each game at a time. But I know managers also look in blocks, if you like. Sometimes 6 games, sometimes 8, sometimes 10-game block.
Warnock mentioned the first 10 games. He said they were a nightmare, didn't he?
Well, that's what I would say. I look at the first 10 games and I would say, 30 points. You look to target from where Cardiff were, you'd be looking to target at least 15 to 16 points. Anything at 20 is, good return. Anything over 20 is a great return. If you can get through that 10 games without losing, you might have drawn 4 or 5 games, but you haven't lost. That also builds momentum. You lost 10 games, 6 games, 7 games, 8 games. It starts to become something you want to hold on to and fight even more to maintain. So I would say over the next 10 games, they got to be looking to be definitely top half of the table over the next 10 games, because like Phil said earlier, they're only 6 points off playoffs.
If they win tonight,
if they win tonight. So, it can be done. It can definitely be done. But top half of the table would be my first port of call.
Okay, agree with that?
Yeah, I think looking at the table and the way things are developing, I think you've got Norwich and Newcastle at the top, who they're going to be there at the end of the season, as far as I'm concerned. Brighton, I think, will be as well, and probably Sheffield Wednesday. But they will, I think.
Fulham could.
Yeah, but I think they will. I think sort of fifth,
Derby
sixth
could.
position, I still think is a little bit up for debate. At this moment, I don't think Cardiff will take one, but you never know what will happen. But the point I'm trying to make is just get yourself into a position where a late surge would get you right in the mix for those fifth, sixth positions. Yeah, I think certainly the fixtures are really tough over the next couple of months. So if they can get up near the top half or get into that sort of second group of teams, I think that'd be a fantastic result to go again second half of the season.
Yeah, it'd be good to get the 30, 32 games and be within, 3 or 4 points of fifth or sixth, something like that. Because people tend to, nerves start to hit, and they start to hit the buffers around about March, So if they can, first and foremost, give themselves that target over this 10 games period up until around about Christmas, try and get in the top half of the table, and then, set yourself a new goal if you like.
Okay, tonight then, what are we predicting? What are we?
What did we say last week? 2-2 and 3-2, wasn't it?
Yeah. No, not our worst predictions.
No, we're far away either.
Completely wrong.
I did predict a Sol Bamba goal though, so I'm claiming that.
Did you?
I did. I said he was going to get the equaliser with a volley as well. So,
Yeah.
I did. I said last minute volley from Sol Bamba. 2-2.
Yeah. I kind of laughed at him because he's a centre half, and then he puts the volley in and a net. So
if I was having a bet on tonight, I would probably go for 1-0 Sheffield Wednesday.
Oh,
but I hope to be.
I'd go the other way. I'd go 1-0 Cardiff. I really do. And I'm not saying it. I genuinely think it's kind of a 1-0, maybe a 2-1 result. So I'm going to go with Cardiff just edging it again, because I did notice the Wednesday manager having a bit of a moan at the fact that we'd had more rest than they had. So I was saying those little things play into players' minds, and I always say, if you're a manager, don't ever say anything like that negative, because it gives the players an excuse. On 70 minutes, look, yeah, he was right, I do feel tired, and no. So I'm going to go, Cardiff just to edge it.
Okay, and team-wise, you think both think the same back four you go with? Same
if he can, I personally would just pick the same 11 and just say go and do it again. Whether I wouldn't be surprised if Lambert didn't play up front, and maybe I wonder if he'll switch it out wide a little bit. Maybe Hoyle on noon might get a rest, but we'll see. I would pick the same team if I could.
If I would change Riles for Richardson, and I would probably play Shamak ahead of Lambert if he's tired, because that's you've got to get these players in sooner rather than later, and that's the whole idea of bringing them in. And you've got to think yourself, they're both like internationals, and if you're someone like Pilkington, or any young lads who are looking at them too, you think to yourself, well, they've been at the top, they've done it all. You almost want to see them perform yourself, so you can learn off them. So I think Shamak, I would probably go for, all being well, him fit and everything, and rest Lambert. And again, I would bring Pilkington on as an impact substitution. Yeah. If Whittingham wasn't having his best game, 55 minutes, I'd swap, put Pilkington on, give a bit more energy. You've got options. That's the beauty.
That is the beauty of it. You can mix things around now, and so that's the encouraging thing. The players you don't get in the team can provide you something totally different off the bench, which you didn't have earlier in the season. They were sort of there, nailed to the mast. They had to play this way with these players because that's all they had, whereas now they can mix it around, and that's a huge positive.
As a brief aside on Ricky Lambert, how would we assess his first month or so as a Cardiff City player?
He's given them a focal point, which they didn't have. He can stop the ball, he can hold it up for a little while, and he gives them a bit of a presence. I think he's been, given how little football he's played, given that we know he's had a couple of little niggles, I think he's been really good. Having said that, you would hope that in a bit of time he would kick on, But I think
it's fitness levels with him.
Yeah.
With Ricky, and playing so many games so quickly after not playing for so long. You know, I'd get him in the pool. I would, you know, on top of his training, get him to do a lot of pool work, swimming and work in the pool. That'd increase, you know, bigger bone people. You don't want them out pounding tracks and up and down, but they need that heart and lung capacity. So that's just me thinking a bit coachified, isn't it? A bit coachified, that one. Yeah.
I think his quality stands out though. Some of his touches are just fantastic.
How he brings people into play, very, very good, very, very good.
Yeah. Okay. Well, fingers crossed he can do all that tonight. If he plays. All right, thanks, chaps. Thanks for all your
it sounds like
comments.
Stewie Griffin.
Thanks for joining us. We'll be live at the game tonight. You can follow that one with Phil throughout the evening. 7:45 kickoff. No idea. Roughly 7:45 kickoff. We'll go with that. You better find out, Phil, before you head down there. And of course, we'll be back next week to talk all about it. See you next time.